Hi guys, and thanks for tuning in to another Tea Bites with Miss K. So at this point, we are in week 6 now of the Define You workbook, diving right into it, and I'll spend a little bit of time focusing on different content within the book. And yes, I am going in order. So far, we are up to today. We'll present page 19. And so at this point, you would have went through trying to discover pretty much what it is that you want to break the cycle of. At this point, you've completed that. And if you haven't so far, that's okay, because again, you can watch these videos at whatever rate you decide and whatever is going to work for you. We're not in competition with one another. And at this point, you would have looked into what success looks like from your viewpoint. We also dived into that negative talk, those language barriers, the things that we talk about that kind of get in the way from us being our best selves and feeling like our best selves. And then we went into regaining control. So there's 2 parts to regaining control. There's 2 videos. The first video, I was having some technical difficulties, so that video was cut short. However, I provided a second video to elaborate on the subject matter just because it was requested and because I just felt like I really left you guys hanging with the first video. So now I wanted to talk about, which is on, again, page 19. We're going to talk about fighting your addiction, which still is a part of the regaining your control. And again, I talked before about how our addictions don't necessarily have to focus anything on being addicted to some type of drug or alcohol, but our addiction could be any bad behavior that's getting in the way of us becoming our best selves. Anything that's preventing us from being able to spend quality time in the areas that we need to. It gets into the way of us having good time management, having the best quality of life that we could have. It could also be getting in the way of us having the best relationships that we can have with other people, and that includes even ourselves. It does not mean us any good. And some of the things that we may be addicted to, it's not that it's a bad thing. However, it's the way that we deal with it, which makes it a dependency. And because it becomes a dependency, therefore it's doing something to us and it's changing the way we are in relationship with it. And when you have an addiction, you are in a relationship with whatever that other thing is that's getting in the way. People that smoke cigarettes, people who are addicted to sex, people who are, I wrote a couple different addictions on here because I know sometimes when the camera goes on, my mind goes somewhere else. Abuse. You can be in codependent relationships. You can have an addiction to anger. And usually if you're in an addiction, you have an addiction to something, when an opportunity presents itself, let's say, for instance, if anger is something that I'm dealing with, what is going to happen is every time a situation presents itself, that's going to be the first response that I have instead of dealing with it, because I'm addicted to feeling this way and I'm getting some sense of satisfaction from it. It's feeding me and I am feeding it. So that needs to be worked on and needs to be addressed, because it's nowhere in the world that you can have a level of anger that's always your first resort, and that you are going to be successful in anything. So what I wanted to also do was talk about how when you are in a position where you need to start fighting your battles, because you need to fight this addiction, what you need to do is think a little bit about, like, when people go into war, think about the different countries they go into war. They don't just say, okay, let's get up and go fight these people. There's preparation that takes place. And that preparation that takes place means that we're going to sit around at this table with all those important individuals that are, or those who are necessary and required to make a part of this process. We're going to sit down. We're going to make a strategic plan on how we are going to fight this war, not just to fight it, but to win. So when you are in your addiction and you realize, I don't want to do this anymore, I don't want to function like this anymore, because you're definitely not living when you're addicted to something. You're just kind of surviving. And one thing that's important to do is to really have this plan on how you're going to win this battle, because you're not just going to say, okay, I'm over it and then this is not going to happen anymore. There's always an opportunity for relapse. And unfortunately, in the recovery process, relapse does occur. It doesn't have to, however, it does for the majority. Now, as usual, I'm over here looking at my board, but then at the same time looking back at the camera. I don't want to spend too much time focusing on the board. However, I do want to make sure I stay on track. So I'm sorry, because I might have already said this, not a traditional fight, but you have to fight. You're not in a traditional fight. In a traditional sense, it was like, oh, well, you were talking about me, so I need to fight for my honor. No, I need to fight for my reputation. Absolutely not. No, what you're saying is like, this is not just a traditional fight where I need to get up here and protect myself and I could just, like put my Vaseline on, take my earrings off and then jump right into the fight. No, I need to really strategically think this out because I want this to be the last time I had to fight this battle. However, if it presents itself again, I will be prepared. So I will not last as long defeated. I will not remain in my muck as long if I'm prepared on how to fight this battle. So preparation for what will follow also comes along, which is a part of what would be in that plan. So if, for instance, like I shared before, with my addiction, it was in feeling bad. And I allowed myself to be surrounded around so many people who allowed me to continuously feel bad and feel guilty, and they were manipulative. So I needed to work on some things. And one of my plans was terminate those relationships. So that meant that I had to figure out some ways in order to make sure I can do this, terminate these relationships and not have any sense of dependency on it where I can find myself going back. And sometimes, again, that does mean, and I shared this before, that there may very well be some family members. So, okay, how can I figure out how to cut you off? But when I have to deal with you, because maybe we're at a family function or a funeral might come up, something like that, a cookout, then how can I still deal with you? I have to mentally prepare myself to know, okay, this person is going to be there. So how am I going to deal with that? I have to have like a couple of escape plans to get away from maybe being stuck in a conversation with you. I'm not going to go out my way to seek you out to entertain a conversation with you or to entertain any conversation you try to have with me. I'm going to find a way out. So that meant that I had to become comfortable with being myself and saying what was going to make me happy, not the other person happy. And also keeping in mind saying something or doing something that was not necessarily offensive. But you know what? My goal was never intended for it to be offensive, to use words of honey and to be thoughtful about it. However, you may have very well felt another way, but that is not the case on what I intended for you to feel at that time. So you need to be prepared also for what will follow and you trying to fight this addiction. What's going to happen is these things that I used to do, I have to find a new way to not do them anymore, to not depend on them anymore. So now what does that mean? It means that I know that there are going to be times that I'm going to have urges to resort back to what it is that I know because it's so easy. I'll have these desires. I might feel a sense of emptiness. I may feel lonely. I may feel depressed. I may be irritable. I may feel a sense of abandonment. And these are some of the things that I felt. And I didn't necessarily feel abandonment by those people because I walked away from them. However, I felt abandoned by those feelings that I used to have, wondering, why don't I still feel that way? But I want to feel that way. So please don't try to make me happy. Please don't try to make me laugh. Don't do those things because I miss that feeling. And that was because I ended up having a relationship with it. I spent too much time with my addiction. I spent too much time with something that meant me no good, that was only harming my body, and my body became dependent on it. And because my body became dependent on it, I had to find some other activities, some other people, some other relationships, some other activities, communication patterns in order to help myself replace what it was that I knew so well, and then get into a purposeful habit of every single day getting up and saying, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to try this because this is what I want. And I don't want to relapse. I don't want to find myself going back down this journey. And guess what? It does happen. So just don't beat yourself up about it. So now I get to a point where when I realize things, my communications with people, let's say, for instance, if I notice that you are a friend of mine and this friend of mine, you know what? I see some tendencies in you. It's like those red flags. They go up a lot faster now than what they used to for me. And I pay a lot more attention. So not only are these flags going up, but they are waving and dancing and they are making loud noises. I can literally hear the wind going back and forth as they're swinging, because at this point, I have no excuse, as into why I don't know better with a lot of these situations that maybe once upon a time I found myself in. So now what am I doing? I'm saying, okay, you know what? I need to cut you off now. And I can't concern myself about your feelings because while you were being manipulative, you did not concern yourself about mine. So I have to cut it off. I have to stop it right here, right now. I'm noticing some patterns. Different person, same tricks. So I have to cut it off right here, right now, because it's going to end with me today. Your tricks are not going to work with me. They may work with someone else, but they're not going to work with me. And again, it doesn't matter who that is. And the more you get into the pattern of letting your yeses be yeses and noes be noes, like I mentioned in my regaining control video last week, it makes a difference. Because when I tell you no, I mean no. And I'm going to stand my ground and I'm confident in what it is that I'm saying. So therefore, I don't find myself wavering and then falling into what it is that you may want from me. And it doesn't make you a mean person. However, some people may perceive you to be that way. And there are other people who are a lot more open to understanding and realizing because of some experiences maybe in their lives, or there's just their personality to understand various perspectives. And they'll respect it. I don't care whether or not you like me, but I do appreciate the respect. So please respect me, respect my feelings, respect our differences. So I'm not big on liking and, oh, I like you so much, or, oh, I love you so much. You can love me and still do a lot of damage. But if you respect me, there are a lot of things that you just won't do because you don't want to break that respect, or because I just respect that person. And you don't have to have a relationship with me or ongoing contact and communication with me in order for you to respect me. But you can respect what it is that I do, how I go about my business, and how I carry and I conduct myself. So that'll let you acknowledge me. Hey, how you doing? How's things going? Everything's great, and keep it moving. So you got to create your game plan. Speak it when you feel discouraged. If you are feeling discouraged, be honest with yourself. Say, you know what? I'm feeling a little bit defeated today, but I can't do this. I got to get up. And that game plan, remind yourself of that game plan. Remind yourself of the success that you're looking for. Remind yourself of what it is that you want for you, not what other people want for you. So sometimes that means you can't conversate with these other people and telling them what's going on with you, because sometimes you can. Now, you might have those trustworthy people. And if you feel like you have nobody at all, go to God. God will not only listen at all times, but he'll also put the correct people in your path in order to help you have someone to be able to talk to help get you to where it is that you need to be. And don't be surprised and necessarily always turn down whatever help comes your way, because it may very well be somebody you least expect who can help get you through this journey. Cry. You have to make time to cry, because you're going to start to experience a lot of different emotions, because you became addicted to something to avoid something, to avoid feeling something, to avoid dealing with something. So therefore, a lot of different emotions are going to start to come to the surface, and you need to be able to do this in a safe space. You need to be able to do this in an environment where you will be received and not be pushed away or not be told, your feelings won't be minimized. So you may feel like, okay, you know what? For these next 6 months until I get stronger, or you might not want to put a time frame on it. It depends. But you might say, okay, until I get to this point, let me go to therapy, or let me go to a life coach or a motivational speaker. Let me get myself involved. Like, you need a treatment plan in order to help yourself get to where you need to be, because I don't know what your addiction may be. And it may be something that is deep, deep rooted within you. And you may need some additional assistance outside of what it is that the Define You community can provide. And as I share in my book, I give a disclaimer. And that disclaimer is that this is the workbook, or any of the activities that we do, is not to replace any form of therapy. I am not your assigned therapist. It doesn't mean stop your medication. It doesn't mean any of those things. What it means is that this is something to also go in conjunction with. This is something to accompany what it is that you're already doing that could very well assist you when maybe you're not around those other people. It gives you something else to think about. Or maybe with some less challenging matters in your life, something you could do with a group. And that can really help in the process of your game plan. Take care of you. It's absolutely necessary to take care of yourself. Spend some time with you, and don't feel bad about it. It's okay to do things alone. Treat yourself out. Do something for yourself. Get your hair done. Get your nails done. Go to the barbershop. Go hang out. You want to go to an event nobody else wants to go? If you're comfortable enough going by yourself and it's safe to go by yourself, why not just go? Try something new, participate in an activity, maybe something you wanted to do when you were a little kid and now the opportunity presented itself and you could do it now. Why not? And so what I just wanted to really spend some time focusing on, which I'm glad that I have done so far, is trying to find the best ways that I can, the most realistic ways that I can to help people figure out how they can fight their addiction, because it absolutely is something that we need to do in order to help break this cycle that constantly goes on. We find ourselves in a cycle. I feel like, something that I heard in the sermon, just this past week. And there's a difference between our cycles and our seasons. God is a part of seasons, and he is involved in that process and what you have to go through in order to get to that next step, in order to be who it is that he's predestined you to be. However, the enemy is in the business of the complete opposite, which is the cycles. And so, perfect example of the Define You workbook was created to help individuals break those cycles that they have going on within themselves that means them no good, because a cycle in no way, shape, form, or fashion can help grow you or mature you. It's just a situation that you keep going around and around and around. A season is something you go through in order to get to that next step. It may present itself again. However, the way you respond to it should be differently, because at this point you would have grown and you're much more mature. You came through that first season with some additional items and skill sets that allow you to make it through if it presents itself again. So guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate you, and thank you for the feedback. And if you have not already voted, I'm going to add the link here, but I have yours truly has been nominated for a Sister's Choice Award. Down below, I will add, or up above, this is Facebook, I will add a link where you can vote, and voting ends this week. And guess what, guys? You can vote as many times as you want, and voting again ends the end of this week. So please get your votes in before Saturday. I don't know where I am in the running, but it doesn't even matter. I just appreciated being nominated. So again, guys, I'll add the link so you can do your vote, and you can vote as many times as you like. All right, guys, take care. Bye-bye.